This is Fieldsports Channel News. Squirrel burgers are still in the news as Welsh hill farmer Gareth Wyn-Jones cooks up a storm on national TV. Gareth is planning to offer tasty morsels from Gray's squirrel meat at Kai's Game and Flames restaurant at the Welsh Game Fair next month. He appeared on ITV's Good Morning Britain and served up a squirrel burger to presenter Richard Madeley, who ate and enjoyed it live on air. And he's criticised Gareth's plans, despite the benefits that shooting greys bring to the indigenous red squirrel population and the damage they do to trees. He's hoping his idea to use grey squirrel meat will eventually attract a wider audience.
Wouldn't it be fantastic if we could have a squirrel burger in McDonald's and in Burger King? That would make my day.
The UK's first commercial tuna fishery, where fish are taken off the Cornish coast and prepared for the table, is underway. For the past 2 years, sport anglers in licensed charter boats have caught Atlantic bluefin tuna with rod and line in a catch, tag and release programme called Chart. Now 10 commercial skippers based in the West Country have a quota to take small numbers of bluefin for the table. Ian Perks, the fish merchant who sold the very first tuna landed under the quota system last week, has called on the government to look at how the new scheme is managed. The UK has just 0.25% of the EU quota, allowing the 10 licensed boats to take 3.9 tonnes of tuna each during a strictly controlled season. Boats from other European nations have a much larger quota. Ian also believes the current commercial system can work hand in hand with a recreational catch and release fishery to provide sports fishing anglers access to game fishing in UK waters.
These guys, they're having a great time catching them, and it's wonderful. And these fish are making £1,000, so it's win-win.
A group of conservation scientists have called for a review of the proposed ban on all types of trophy hunting. The group asked the government to think again when considering new legislation. In a letter to Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, 163 scientists have asked for a conservation amendment to the proposed trophy hunting import prohibition bill. The letter says a blanket ban on all trophy hunting imports could have an adverse effect on wildlife, harming local livelihoods and damaging conservation projects. Instead, it calls for the bill to take account of projects where hunting trophies are only permitted if they demonstrate clear benefits to both conservation and local livelihoods. Sources close to the letter say there would have been many more signatories had wildlife scientists not been fearful for their funding were they seen to support trophy hunting. The use of snares is under the spotlight and could be banned in Scotland. The Scottish Government is seeking the public's view on whether an outright ban should be put in place or if any exemptions should be considered. The consultation is also asking for opinions on extending the investigative power of the Scottish SPCA, the Society for the Protection of Animals, which is committed to ending many forms of legal pest control and other shooting sports. This will involve giving SSPCA inspectors more authority to search, examine and seize evidence related to incidents of illegal hunting and other offences related to what it calls wildlife persecution.
Throughout the season and throughout the different circumstances, we need to be able to use different tools within that toolbox, and these tools are being taken away from us. So it's important that we can keep hold of as many management practices as possible for the sake of the protection of livestock and for the conservation of red listed species in Scotland.
Hampshire Police says it's continuing its investigation into the actions of Chris Packham, who appeared on television and allegedly sniffed goshawk chicks. Police say they have received a formal complaint about an alleged violation of the 1981 Wildlife and Countryside Act. At the time, Packham talked about how the chicks have their own unique smell. The police Country Watch team says it's reviewing a complaint which centres around whether the film crew had a licence to film the chicks in their new forest habitat. In a separate matter, Packham is currently suing Fieldsports Channel Limited for defamation. The Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust says its long-running farm cluster scheme has shown an incredible increase in grey partridge. Farmers working together to form a collective land management policy have seen dramatic increases in many game species. Numbers of other birds such as turtle doves and lapwings are also increasing across the Martin Down National Nature Reserve in Dorset and Hampshire. The grey partridge is the star of the show, with a 120% increase in numbers since the scheme began in 2017. The GWCT will publish more data on bird populations linked to the scheme next year and has asked for people to join their survey scheme. Link below.
We've increased biodiversity significantly, not just on grey partridges, but 125% for corn buntings. I think it's like over 20% species richness in butterflies. But that's year on year, we're just increasing. We just want, the aim is for biodiversity to increase and last for generations. We want our members, the farmers want their children and their grandchildren to see those species thriving on their land. They want to see turtle doves and hear them purring in the summer. They want to see the grey partridges purring up in the spring. You know, it's just intrinsic of the landscape and what farmers and gamekeepers and landowners and land managers want.
This weekend we'll see the largest ever gathering of saltwater fly anglers. Around 140 anglers from all over the UK and Europe are heading to the south coast of England for the 4th Orbis Saltwater Fly Fishing Festival. They'll be spending the weekend fishing for bass, mullet and other species in the biggest event of its kind in Britain. The competition is catch and release, with prizes for the largest bass and mullet and a multi-species award. It takes place in the waters around Chichester Harbour, Hayling Island and Portsmouth. We'll bring you a full report in a future edition of the show. The Italian region of Liguria has passed a law allowing hunters to use bows. It's an attempt to control an explosion of wild boar in the northwest of the country. Bow hunting is legal in Italy along with about half of Europe, including Denmark, France, Spain, Portugal, Hungary, Finland, Bulgaria and Slovenia. You can usually only shoot big game with a bow in certain areas of Italy. In a study released last year, Italian authorities estimated wild boar have caused €120 million worth of damage to livestock and agriculture over the past 7 years. In South Africa, a new study reveals that 75% of female elephants have been treated with a contraceptive to try and limit a population explosion. South Africa faces an elephant crisis with far more animals than most of the country can support. Breeding-age female elephants outside the Greater Kruger National Park have been treated with immunocontraceptive in 47 reserves to prevent overpopulation. Some 1,600 females have been treated since the scheme began in 2000. There are, however, fears that the effect that barren females have on the mainly matriarchal structure of elephant herds. And finally, who has bought the largest herd of white rhino in the world? John Humes placed his herd of 2,000 southern white rhinos up for sale, around 15% of the world's population, because of the $10,000 a day running costs of his captive platinum rhino breeding project. The auction ended in May, but there's still no announcement of a successful buyer for the project. You are now up to date with Fieldsports Channel News. Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.